A very good morning. Hello to all familiar faces and welcome first timers. Creative Mornings Lecture 3. We hope you had a sumptuous breakfast to lend your ears to play. Tickle your brain and wiggle your mane. Speak your mind today. Play is the theme for today's lecture at Creative Mornings, which is a free lecture series started by New York based Tina Roth Eisenberg, which was brought down as the first Indian chapter in Bangalore by Vikram Chenoy and his team. This event is organized and managed by Canvas Creations, again, a media group based out of Bangalore. The event is sponsored by Book My Lens. Now, a little about our speaker, Mr. Prakash Belawadi. He's an eminent journalist, filmmaker, and a theatre person who founded the Center for Film and Drama at Suchitra Film Society. He's an actor, writer, and a director, and is also a national award winner for his feature film, Stumble. As a Bangalorean, I'm really proud to welcome on stage Mr. Prakash Belawadi.
I'm going to speak for maybe 15 minutes on the idea of play and what constitutes theatre. Yesterday I was part of a panel at a national seminar with Professor N. Manu Chakravarti and KV Akshara of Neenasam. The panel was on the idea of transmutations, intertextuality, and how maybe a literary work translates to cinema, to drama, or dance, music. And Akshara had many interesting definitions of what theatre means. I won't go through all his definitions, but one of them is very interesting, with Peter Brook's definition of theatre. Whenever there is an empty space, wherever, and if a person actually occupies the empty space and somebody sees it, then theatre happens. But I have a problem with that in the sense that it seems to define not theatre as we mean it, although actually the more interesting word is play as we mean it, but it means performance, which need not mean play. Let me give you an example of what is performance. Somebody who climbs, scales the wall of, say, public utility building is also doing a performance. But it is not play in the sense we understand. It may be sport, but it's not play in the sense we mean it in this conversation. For that, you need a more, a little more complex definition, which is that if there is an empty space and somebody comes and plays a role, then it becomes play. What does playing a role mean? I don't mean he should talk. If you could say that in real life we play these roles. Now you're all dressed as urban people. That's a role. If you wore, rural costumes, you'd be playing a rural person. You're playing a role of an urban person here. Or if you wear your hair in a certain manner, you declare you are a person of a certain, you suggest that you're a person of a certain social, you suggest a certain social attitude with it. But these are real life roles. So what is the condition of that role in that empty space where it becomes play? It means that if I tell you, you're wearing these clothes and you're telling a lie, you'll take offense. You'll say, this is the real me, perhaps. But in the play, if I tell you, I'm playing, let us say, Manmohan Singh. And if you tell me you're lying, you're not Manmohan Singh, it becomes absurd. Of course I'm lying. That's the whole point of the role played here, because there's a conscious adoption of role, and there's a conscious dissolution of role. You understand? That makes it different. See, in Germany this year, I went to the Theatre Treffen, which is their annual theatre meet. And because it was the 50th year, they had called theatre people from all around the world. And I was the Indian delegate. And one of the things that the Germans do is disability theatre. I mean, there are all kinds of troubling historical reasons for it, because remember, Hitler didn't go just after the Jews. He first went after the disabled. You know, the idea of purifying the race meant he wanted to eliminate all the disabled also. But so there's a lot of guilt, and there's a lot of German sensibilities around it. You know, that sensitivities around it also. That you know, Germans are a very great people actually, and they took us to this disabled theatre place, and we had a discussion with the director. And I said, but what do they perform? Do they perform plays? I said. She said, they do performances. I said, but do they perform plays? So I'm speaking in English. And so she says, she asks me, what do you mean by plays? I'm saying, do they play themselves? Or do they play roles? And she's saying, no, they play themselves. And you know, that difference is what I want to dwell on, because there are many ways of doing plays. But I'm saying the play that I'm talking about is this play, where you create a make-believe plot, situation, roles, and play it out for a dramatic effect. The comparable play is this. The umpire, see, you know, Sachin Tendulkar flashes his bat. The ball goes into the gloves of the keeper, who appeals. And then time stops. And there is a heart-stopping moment when the umpire's finger is going up. And you know, the nation is weeping. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. If we scored 100 runs, or if we scored 90 runs, or if we scored 9 runs, or if we scored no runs, it makes really no difference to the price of eggs or anything else. So what is the great tension we created with it? That is play. You create an artificial goal, and you describe exactly if you see the vocabulary of that play, it's very close to the vocabulary of this play. You talk about character. Rahul Dravid has got character. And, you know, Dhoni has got another type of character. And, you know, his temperament is such. And somebody's integrity is such. Somebody is heroic. And somebody is a coward. You use all these terminologies for that play as well. Because there it's a make-believe world. Because it's really not going to change anything in the world if somebody scores more runs than, if one team of 11 people will score more runs than another team of 11 people. It really makes no difference. And the umpire does not have superhuman powers. He's endowed with it at that moment, in that space, for that time. Okay, my last definition, and we can then go into an interactive thing, is that play requires another condition that is extremely important for us, which is that it must have continuous time and it must have continuous space. Now there are experiments being done in theatre where I'll play one scene here and the other scene will be played in another room. Or we travel by train. You know, there's a project called Remote Berlin, which we are hoping to get to Bangalore. Where you actually, the performance is actually, there is no difference between the audience and the performers. So the audience is taken to various places and play happens, But even there, time is continuous. And remember, because there is no intermission in it, there's no relapse in it. Even space is continuous. Even if in remote Berlin, you board a train, you get off at a platform, you walk through a department store, you take another train, you cross the street several times, and you do all that. But it's nevertheless continuous space, even if it's a very large space. That's a very important condition for play. Bound time and bound space. And why that space, that empty space that Peter Brook calls, becomes charged is this. In real life, when I'm talking to you, you're assuming different poses of listening. There's a thing of acting, of listening. But if you're not trained actors, if you get you on stage and say, will you do listening? You'll be a little foxed, you won't understand what it means. Because at once you become conscious when you're on stage, even if you're not trained, that every gesture assumes an importance that it doesn't contain in real life. But because on stage, when I'm talking to you, if I do this and look, all of you will look there. Had I not said this and looked, all of you will look there because you'll think something important. There is significance to this gesture, you think. The person who is standing, behind the Rahul Gandhi, for instance, man wearing glasses. That's a very important reason why it's that the man wears glasses, because otherwise what will happen is this: all of us in the crowd will keep looking where that person is looking otherwise. He'll do this, if the crowd will turn there. He'll do this, the crowd will turn there. That is the reason they must wear glasses, I assume. It may be another reason that nobody needs to know where they're looking. But this is also a very important reason, because if you're sitting there and doing various gestures like, scratching your chin or, straightening your hair or leaning back or leaning forward, nothing happens. But on stage, everything assumes importance. So in the first class in acting, when you put them on stage, the trainees first become awkward with their hands. These are things that you've lived with all your life, but you don't know what to do with it on stage. What do I do with this thing, Should I use it? When I say my name is, should I say? Or my name is? You don't know what to do with this. Because you become conscious of it. Because this is the only thing that hangs loose. Have you noticed everything else? So if you tell actors, don't use your hands, they, supposing their gesture is saying, I won't come. And you don't want, it's an awkward gesture for I won't come. That's a natural gesture of the person. I told him, also they'll use it like that. So say, don't use this thing, I won't come, don't say. If you say, they'll say, I won't come. They'll substitute that thing to the chin, and do it. And then you say, don't use the chin. Then, there's this tension and charge in that direction. But something happens with that, and acting begins with that, actually, because it internalizes to that extent. That's why in dance training, they will tell you, where the eye goes, the hand should go. The body should tend also in that direction. Unless you do contradictory impulse. See, in Mohe Pannagatippe, Madhubala, she's saying that Krishna is troubling me, but she also likes it. So she will do contradictory gestures with the body. The body will go this way, but the eye will go towards him, It's a contradictory gesture. With training, all this comes because everything is significant in the charged space. Silence is significant. Somebody asks a question, will you come tomorrow? And the other person does not reply. As the silence grows, it becomes pregnant because it's not neutral silence, because you're on stage. In Sanskrit, in the Natya Shastra, you call it Vibhava Anubhava. Vibhava is a provocation, a stimulus, cause, reason. And everything on stage is that. I look this way. I must get response to that. Some actor must come there, or some noise must happen there, you know. Otherwise, the audience is cheated. So Vibhava must have Anubhava, which in turn becomes Vibhava. That person comes. Now it's up to me, I must do something. Okay, last two ideas on it. In play, like in sport, action is always at a point. All the 26 cameras on the soccer ground must be on the ball. It's when that action ceases that you can show the dugout and reaction, somebody doing this, you can do. But it must, while the action happens, it must stay there. Otherwise, it's bad telling. The narration is bad otherwise. The action is always at one point in time space. That is also really important for play. And my final idea is that, I said this yesterday also, I'll tell it today. I asked Akshara's father, K.V. Subarna, who I consider one of my gurus, once, many years ago, what is rasa? You know? And he said, he began with this. He said, in communication, there are only three elements. Like I said, the element of narrative in play is the Vibhava Anubhava connection. That is the narrowest element, you know. Dialogic it is. Because, you know, without dialogue, no play happens. You know, stimulus and response, which becomes stimulus again, and there should be a response. And from that, feeling is generated. So I'm asking him, what is rasa? He says there are three elements. Anukarya, something to show, tell. Anukarta, someone or a set of people to show, tell. Vikshaka, a set of people to hear, see. This is true of all communication. In journalism too, in filmmaking, in painting, in singing, in play. Think about it. You need all three elements. Something to do, not yourself, as I'm saying. It has to be something to do. And you do that, and somebody sees it, or hears it, on radio also. And when that happens, what happens is a transformation from here to there. That is important. Now, bhava is to be. Bhava is what happens to us, to our minds, by being. But he said in that example, if two actors perform so well on stage and they weep because of a moment of great sorrow, let's say a man and a woman love each other, the audience knows it, they know it too, but life intervenes in such a way that they cannot be with each other. And at that moment of parting, they perform so well that they're weeping on stage. And you're weeping there. Subarna asked me, whose pain is it? Pain is being felt, but who is feeling the pain? I told you there are only three elements. The story does not feel the pain. The character does not feel the pain because the character doesn't exist. Do the actors feel the pain? No. When the curtain closes, they'll party because they did so well. Do you feel the pain? When the show is over, you say, I really loved it. I want to come and see it again, perhaps. I'll bring my family to see it. I'll bring a friend to see it. Would you want to cause pain to yourself or your family or friend? No. You're feeling happy with that pain. He said that is rasa, because if I put it this way, we draw from experience. What we do, if I write a book, the raw material is memory, and memory is experience. The raw material is memory. When you read a book, the raw material that creates pain and emotion, the characters, the action, is not ink and paper. It is actually your memory. From this experience, that experience is created. But the experience that happened first, which is real life, when it is felt by the reader or the vikshak or the audience, is an aesthetic. That is what, from bhava, it becomes rasa. And that is what happens in play. So when we feel pain with Sachin Tendulkar failing, it's not real pain. It's actually an idea of the sense of loss. That's why it doesn't last. Unless you're so patriotic that you remember that Negi gave away 9 goals in the Asiad match in 1982. Otherwise, it doesn't last like that. Certainly in theatre, these associations of patriotism and all that is not there. It's just a simple narrative drama that plays out, and you associate with its emotions, and you feel all those emotions, but you feel it in a kind of sublime way, not in the way of flesh and blood. And so it from real experience, it becomes an aesthetic, art aesthetic. That's it. So I think we can have questions and interaction.